Morning, how's it going? Alan Rath here. Hey, I'm in a spot called Queenstown, which is at the bottom of New Zealand. And I've just travelled down here from Auckland. I was in Auckland for 3 weeks, and I'd flown to Auckland from the Gold Coast. Anyway, I've managed to lock in a bunch of events and stuff I'm doing. Oh my gosh, I got to get down by the lake. This view's insane. This is a remarks if you know anything about Lord of the Rings. Is that Sauron? Anyway, pretty epic spot down here. So I'm just wandering down. There's a lake called Lake Wakatipu, and I thought I'd go down. It's supposed to snow today, but it's not. But I'm here to have a little chat, a little bit of a catch up. I learned a lot, I think, in the last couple of weeks. Wow, it's epic. Yeah, learnt a lot, I reckon, in the last couple of weeks about what it means to be a full-time professional artist. So, as I said, I flew to New Zealand 3 weeks ago. I had a week of art direction work, and then the reason why I was coming is because I had 2 murals locked in. I'm carrying a whole bunch of bags. So the reason why I'm in Queenstown is I've got a couple of live drawing gigs on. Well, I've got one live drawing gig, and I'm just down here staying for 2 nights, and I've got a full day inside today, live drawing. The reason why I'm going for a walk now is because it was an 8 o'clock start, and now it's changed to a 10 o'clock start. So I thought I'd just walk down the end of the street. I feel like anywhere you walk in Queenstown, it just is magically amazing. And yeah, and it's so good, eh? Far out. Every time I come to Queenstown, I forget how epic it is. There's a little beach down here. Let's go for a walk out onto this little beach. Looks like there's a lot of cars here. Oh, there's that little house up there again. That's so cool. Oh, look at this shack. That little shed's pretty rad. Wow, so it is, and what's the time? 8:30 a.m. and the sun hasn't risen yet. So you can see this is like the middle of winter in New Zealand, or the bottom of New Zealand. I'm from New Zealand, and it doesn't look anything like this. I'm from the top of the North Island. Let's go for a little walk out here, eh? So yeah, so I've learned a lot in the last few weeks. I had to last minute pivot and work out how to paint one of my murals I had locked in with spray cans. By painting with spray cans, I mean the black lines. I've only ever brushed my black lines, and I've only ever used paint pens as well. So just one of the two. It was one of the murals I did had I wasn't until I got there. It was a super textured surface, and oh man, it was just brutal. So, oh, it's so pretty down here. Look how clear this water is. And then there's just a big flipping mountain. I'm carrying so many bags on me at the moment. I'm scared to put them down. I'm just gonna ditch these. Oh, jeepers. You know what that was? I nearly went in the water. Oh. So yeah, just about lost the mic. That's what you get for clipping it on the bag, you idiot. I'm just going to come and sit down here. What a spot. Oh, yes. The serenity. If you don't know what that joke is, you need to watch The Castle. So, yeah, so I'm just, thought, yeah, so with those 2 murals, one of them, I shocked myself because all the prep I had to do was from Australia. So the client had contacted me saying they wanted to do it, and I said, you just need to get me a photo of the wall and rough dimensions. And then one of the questions I had was, is is the wall north facing, south facing, whatever. So I managed to lock in 2 north facing walls. The reason why that's important is a north facing wall gets all day sun, and all day sun's good because it'll dry your paint. And so I was very nervous about those murals leading up to it, because basically Auckland is very wet and very volatile in the middle of winter, which it was July. So I can say that the first mural I did, I'll pop it up here, right there. It was pretty easy and pretty straightforward. And a boat must have just gone through here. I'm getting like a little setup. I could surf this. So the first mural, which I'll call the balloons mural, not because I painted balloons, but because I painted over balloons. And I feel like I'm going to get splashed. That one was really straightforward. And I'll say really straightforward because I had in my mind what I would do. The last minute they changed the location of the mural to another side, so the little bit of issue I had was that they decided to just go from a north facing mural to a south facing mural. So I went out, set up the projector. I've got videos on that which you can watch. Set up the projector on what would have been the Monday night, and I sketched in 2/3 of the artwork, and I went to sketch in the final third, and the battery ran out on the projector, and I was like, oh, it was already like, I don't know, like 8 o'clock at night or something, and I went back to my Airbnb, which is like a 20-minute drive. Got back there, and I was like, I should really go back, like charge up the projector and go back in the morning and finish off the projections. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. I knew I had one day of definite sunshine, and it felt like that could have quickly changed if I wasn't careful, because Auckland changes really quick. So I actually went to bed, and I woke up the next morning early, like 5, naturally, like woke up wide awake, and I was like, I know what I need to do. I need to go do the projections. So what do? I'll get up, my projector's flat, and I decide to charge it. It took me like an hour and a half to get charged into it. So I had shower, breakfast, all the coffee, all that stuff. While it was charging, wishing I charged it. Jumped into my car that I was borrowing, went and drove down to Pukekohe, which was another 20 minutes, and got there, and it was still dark. It was flipping cold. It was like absolute, like clear night, no clouds. And you know, it's like you have no clouds, it's freezing. So it was 6 degrees. Did a couple of Instagram posts showing off how cold it was. And yeah, I sketched in that last little bit. It probably took me like an hour, which was setting up the projector on top of the car, and then sketching in with a pencil. The hardest thing about that is when you have to reset up a projector a second time, you can never line it up perfectly. So you got to make sure you work it out by eye. So the first thing I learned was you have to be able to pivot. The wall changed location to a south-facing location. The projector ran out while I was using it, and I went home, and the other thing I learned was that I should really consider what my wife says when she says, you need to be more organised. So I wish I was more organised, and I wish I put the thing on charge. I don't know why I didn't. It's so not a me thing to do. Okay, so once I'd got all of that sketched in, it must have been like 8 o'clock in the morning. They were the nicest people hanging out at Pukekohe. Lady bought me a coffee. They'd all been hanging out. They'd been saying, this is an artist from New Zealand. I thought there was like, looked like sharks in the water. You can't see it, but over there, it's like 4 ducks. They must have the coldest duck bits that are dangling in the water. Man, this is beautiful. So the next part was a part that I wasn't 100% sure how it was going to go, but I was like, I'm pretty sure I can do this. And I'd decided based off paint drying time that the colour fills, which are 2 colours, blue and red, would be best done with a spray can. Now, I used spray cans over the years to paint something on my car, and when I first started art like 20 years ago, I used to get spray paint, these $4 spray paint cans from a super cheap auto, and I would paint stuff and stencils and but nothing that taught me how to use a can properly. So I'd had a bunch of nibs. Are they called nibs? Spray can caps. They're called caps. So a bunch of caps, and I tried a bunch out, and I was like, okay, these caps or this cap's the one that's going to work. And I was so blown away because it was so easy to paint like a nice hard straight line and fill it and it dry. Man, south facing wall, 6 degrees, no sun on it, 8 o'clock in the morning. It was drying in like relatively instantly. If I laid on too much paint, it would take a little bit longer, but within 5 minutes it was touch dry. And I was like, man, I went and put in all of the colour fills really quickly. I then went and once I'd done all that, I saw that I'd painted one side of the wall, kind of running down at an angle to the other side of the wall. So I had to go and get my ichrometer and stand down the road and look like this and be like it was on an angle like that. I was like, yeah, we're going to have to even that up. So I went along up the wall and spray painted a little bit at the top and evened it out. So that went really good. I was really happy with where I got to. I must have done the colour fills by 10 a.m. And at that point I was like, I need a wee. So I quickly shot down to McDonald's. The next thing I learned was keep a tab of all your stuff. So I was trying to be as careful as I could with my ladders, my paints, my tools, locking the car, where I put my phone. Because I'm on the street side, right? I'm on my own. I had no one there to help babysit my stuff. And I went all the way down to McDonald's, and it was a 20-minute walk there and back. And I'd left one of my DJI Action 5 Pro cameras in a tree, like with a GoPro mount attached to a branch. Guaranteed, if someone had seen that, they would have taken it, because there were some gangsters hanging around. A lot of nice people, but there were some proper guys that would like to have their own action camera hanging around. So I basically recuperated where I was at and what I was doing, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna like get into painting the black lines now. And I was like, I reckon I'll have this maybe almost done by the end of the day. The next thing I learned was that I only had so much brush knowledge. I got a whole kit of sign painting brushes, and those are great on a flat, non-textured surface. And I was like all ready to go, making a YouTube video about I'm going to use this brush and this brush and this brush, and showing it off like I knew what I was talking about. And I was going on about how I'm going to thin this paint. I'm going to add this much terps to it. I'm going to put the terps into this little sprayer bottle. Man, I didn't use that sprayer bottle at all. That sprayer bottle, I ended up chucking in the bin because I ruined it by putting turpentine in it. I just destroyed it forever. It just smelled like crap. I didn't even thin the paint. I did until I realized that it didn't work, and I'd over-thinned it. And I thinned it enough to be able to use that couple of sign painting brushes I had, but I started painting in like maybe for like half an hour, and I realized that it was just going to take way too long. So you can imagine this wall was a smooth block wall with a bit of a rendering on it. And yeah, it was textured enough for me not to get the paint into the little kind of like little recesses and dimples that it had. And I was like, So I'd had this other couple of brushes I'd bought from the hardware store, Bunnings, and it was one that looked like it could have been a good brush, and I was just going to use it for doing some like edging or colour fills, or I didn't know what I was going to use it for, but it looked like an interesting brush. I've got one in the bag here, and it's actually got really like strong bristles. So those bristles ended up being like, so the next thing I learned was that you need to do more research, Alan, when you're deciding to paint a block wall or a painted wall or a concrete wall outside. Because I realized that the brushes I had that I'd used for years, I didn't even really use them on interior walls, and anything else I'd done exterior, I'd use paint pens. And so the paint pens, you can put a lot of pressure onto them and really, but even those can be pretty difficult. So I got the brush, I started the colour fills. It had a very brushy, wispy edge, which is a style that I actually do, but it looked a little bit different to how I had mocked it up and shown that to the client. So the next thing I learned was that I probably, if I'm traveling from overseas and haven't actually checked out the wall and done some tests myself, I should probably just do some sort of disclaimer in a contract via ChatGPT that says that the end product could differ to the original concepted product. Some sort of jargony crap like that. I was really hoping I was going to get some sunshine, but looks like I'm not. All right, so I went through painting all the blacks. I realized that, thinning the one-shot paint, the lettering enamel I got, was not going to work. It was just way too cold and making it way too drippy. And I'd heard a sign painter saying that, sign painters don't usually do this, they always thin their paint. He said he uses the paint straight out of the can. And I was like, you know what? I'm also going to use the paint straight out of the can. I'm going to try it and see how it works. So I dipped the brush, the fat, stipply kind of like textured brush I had. I dipped that in the one shot, painted it onto the wall, and I was like, you know what? This is actually going to work. So I just went through. Next thing you know, I'm like in full flow state. I'm like painting and lines and this and that, and it's getting the occasional run and fixing this and fixing that. I did a time lapse and I just burned through the artwork and left the center undone. And I was like, whoa, that was actually really fast and efficient. And the style actually looked really sick. So the other thing I learned was when you're out doing difficult, hard things, and this can apply to anything, whether it's life, whether you've moved overseas, whether you started a new job, whether you started a business or something, I learned that when you're doing hard, difficult things, you're going to encounter problems, and those problems sometimes are going to change how you do your craft, and you're going to create something that you're like, man, I actually like this better than the work I was doing before, and it evolves you as an artist, or it evolves you as a human. And we love to learn, we love to do new things, and there's something about when you created something and that was you that invented it, you weren't copying someone, you weren't getting it from a tutorial, you were like, man, this is actually a bit of me. So that was the other thing I learned. Anyway, I basically got through all the artwork. The sun was starting to set. People were still super friendly and nice, and they're coming over and like, whoa, I can't believe you did this. And I was like saying to them, I can't believe I painted this whole mural in a day, because it was really, I haven't done this before. I was about to go home. I was about to knock off, and I packed up a bunch of stuff. And the sun was setting, and I just was like, I hadn't painted the last logo in the middle. The logo was just, it was freaking me out because it was a very vector-based nice like looking logo, and I really wanted to make sure it was level, because look at this, that's level, that horizon there. And if I go like this, it's not level. And you can tell. Everyone can tell. Your mum can tell. Your dad can tell. Your kids can tell. Your dog can even tell. I don't know if your dog can tell, but if you had a border collie, they could probably tell that your logo wasn't level. And I was like, I had a level, but I didn't have a straight edge. And I was going to use some tape, and I could have measured up from the ground, but then the ground was all like wonky. And I was like, set up the projector, and I was like, you know what? I can do this, eh? And I was like, maybe I should turn around and give you some nicer lighting on my face. By the way, my butt is like about 2 degrees. It is so flipping cold. Let's move over here. If I fall in the water, these are like my special business clothes I got on to work in today. Look at that lighting, that's so much nicer. Yeah, so I decided that, what did I decide? Yeah, that's right, I decided that I was like, I got this. And stuff the level, I was like, man, I can eyeball this. I've got actual skills. I talked myself up. I was like, stuff it, I'm just going to do it. So I went and got the projector out, set it up, was like moving the projector, projecting it onto the wall, and I was like, you know what? That's flipping level. And I resized it because I made it smaller than what it was supposed to be, and I was like, let's do this. I went over, pencil, sketched it all in, went back over, I put my hand over the projector, looked at it, and I was like, yeah, we're painting this. So that was back at like 6 o'clock at night. I just went, didn't even set up a camera, didn't even care. I was like, I'm just going to get this sorted. And I went, painted it. And it actually came out really good. When I kept looking back at the logo on the mural, I'll show you here, have a look here again. This is the logo. And you can just see that, yeah, nailed it. And I don't even think it's out by a millimeter. And even if it is, it looks right in proportion to the artwork. So that was the next thing I learned. Just to like sometimes like talk yourself up and back yourself and be like, let's put our balls on the line and let's just make this thing look level, you know? Anyway, from there, I had another mural I had to go do. The other mural was like, yeah. I mean, it was good. It had like access from a ladder, there were bushes down below, and they really made it hard to get a ladder in there. And one of the days I knew I was going to get rained out by about lunchtime, and so I just went down early, set up the projector on the entire wall, like projected the whole thing even though I couldn't reach the top. And I just started sketching in, shoving my ladder into the bushes, moving it over here, did a little bit of gardening, just a little bit. I told the client I did the gardening. But I just went, I'm gonna get in there, I'm gonna sketch it, and I'm gonna sketch in with a pencil. And when I went to sketching them with a pencil, I was like, it doesn't work because the wall is so textured that it was like skipping and just touching the top of these little these are like bumps are like this big, these like recesses. So I just went, I know what to do. I went and got a Posca pen, and I'd had an issue with the Posca pen before where I sketched in a flat surface like vinyl that I was painting onto a window. So it was like sign runners vinyl. And I sketched in with a paint pen, and then when I brushed with the acrylic paint, it lifted the black and mixed with the colours, and it looked really gross. I was really gutted. But I managed to work with that. And I knew that could be an issue, but from the spray cans I used, I was like, no, these colours are pretty solid, and I reckon I'll be able to work with that. So what I did, I went and got the big fat Posca, the big 12 mil or 15 mil tip, and I was like, drew the whole thing in, munted the tip of the pen because it was like drawn on concrete, and Yeah, it actually worked. It worked real good. And I was like, I had weather that looked a bit like this. So I had like a little bit of sunrise, and it quite quickly went quite dark. And it had clouds, and then not as much blue sky as this, but it was cold and damp, feeling like it was going to rain. I just went, we're going to get as much paint on as we can. Like, got out I had orange and blue spray cans, got them out, changed the caps, mixed them up, got them going, and I just went straight onto the wall, painted all that colour in, and I was like, man, that was quick. I'd actually got good at doing the colour fills with the spray can, where I felt like I had a little bit more time up my sleeve, and it looked like I kept checking the radar. So the other thing I learned is that, and I actually learnt it this year, is like I always look at weather. I'm always tracking weather patterns, and I geek out on it. I think it's pretty rad. I realised that you can't quite track, especially Auckland weather, down to like 2 hours. You need to check the weather radar, which is like a half an hour. You've got half an hour where it can predict quite accurately my butt hurts so bad. It's a rock, man. I need like a portable seat that I can carry around with me. So the weather radar, I just kept checking it, and it looked like it wasn't getting rain. It was getting pushed out and pushed out compared to what I'd already been looking at. So I just went in. I was like, I'm not going to be able to brush this wall. This is way too textured. This is it here. This is the wall. Anyway, I went and just like quickly Googled. I was like in the middle of nowhere. It's like a farming town. Where can I buy like graffiti spray paint? I'm gonna actually do the black lines with a spray can. I've never done that before. Looked up, found this place called Dave's Emporium, and we're talking like a junk store, like a really crappy, like rip off everything. And I rang them, and I'm like, it says online that you guys do Montana cans, which is like a graffiti spray paint, like a good quality one. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, where are you? And they said, Manukau. And I was like, is that close? They're like, no. So I jumped in the car, boosted down to the spot called Manukau. It took me 32 minutes to get there, got there, went in, and they had this huge, like over my head height, huge long cabinet, like 3 meters long, filled with graffiti spray paint. And then the rest of the shop was like party dress-ups and Halloween stuff and rip-off stationery. And I just was like, okay, well, looks like we're buying 4 cans of black then. They had all the caps. I had decision fatigue on what caps to buy. Quickly watched a YouTube video on what caps someone else uses for fine lines. Bought those green ones. I bought green ones and then white ones with a green dot. They said they use them. So the next thing I learned was that YouTube is epic on the fly to work out what you need to work out. And it's up there with our old mate AI. Here come these waves again. Look at this. A boat went past over there about every time. I think it's going to wet my feet. So quickly jumped in the car, boosted back to Pukekohe, got out. Weather was looking more ominous and dark, and I was like, but it's not raining yet. And I just went for it. I was like, did some tests, like I'm talking like 3 lines. I was like, I got this. And then within an hour, I'd painted out all of the black lines for half of the artwork. I got it pretty much all done. All I had to do was do the top section. I learned that, on the fly, you have to be able to fix your mistakes or someone else's mistakes, because you just got to do what you got to do, because the longer you stay somewhere, it's going to cost you money. The longer you stay somewhere, you're going to be frustrated. I reckon second guessing yourself and getting decision fatigue is like a thing that you need to work on if you want to work under pressure. So when it comes to pressure and trying to deliver on a product for someone, you got to be a pro. And sometimes you can't actually be a pro unless you go and do professional things and learn how to fix your mistakes or other people's mistakes. So after I'd done that, I went home for the weekend. my wife and kids were in New Zealand holidaying as well, seeing all their friends and stuff. They're at my mum and dad's, so I went and spent the weekend with them, dropped them to the airport, and I was like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to flip and attack the top section of this mural. I had a scissor lift arriving. I'd never actually, I think I'd used a scissor lift once before. I'd been in one where someone else was operating, and I was like, we can do this. I didn't even Google how to do it. I just got in there and started like, and it was freaky as at first because it was wobbly as. And I got up and I couldn't project because it was daytime, and even the projector wouldn't have been able to get through the scissor lift that was up against the wall. It would have created a shadow. And I was like, I'm going to use a grid. I've used a grid before. I sat down, worked it out on the paper. I've done a whole YouTube video on that you can watch. And I just did what I needed to do to get it done. It's always a bit worrying when you draw with a grid because then you're worried things don't look perfect. I had these birds that were quite detailed, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to draw them at scale, like large. I'm good at drawing them small, but then I was like, oh, when I draw them too big, it's going to look a bit weird. But I just got up there. I did 3 sections, so I only had to move the scissor lift twice and get into place, and I just went at it. Just drew the grid on my paper, used the calculator on my phone, drew the grid onto the wall, again worked that out on my phone, drew the lines, sketched it all in, was able to film a YouTube video on how to draw a grid under my playlist, which is how to paint a mural playlist. And I just sketched it in, put the scissor lift down, sketched in the bottom, and again, on the fly, was like, I know what I'll do. I'm not going to move the scissor lift. I'm just going to go straight back up, did the colours, painted those, brought the scissor lift back out, did all the blacks, and I'd completed a third of what I need to do. Move the scissor lift, so I'd learned something else on the fly, just like work out how to be as efficient as possible. So that's probably the next thing I learned, being efficient. And then I did the same thing 2 more times. Took me probably 6 hours to paint that whole kind of top section plus working it out. And yeah, I got to it was like a pretty mint sunny day. Managed to get to like the final part where I was painting the black, and out of nowhere starts raining. The lucky thing was that the wall was facing with it, basically the wall I was painting, the rain was coming from the back of it. So about this much of the scissor lift didn't get wet. I got soaking wet, all my stuff got wet, but the wall didn't. So man, I was lucky, but I was prepared because I was painting with the spray cans, and they were drying pretty quick, and I had a heat gun, which I barely used. So yeah, I brought the scissor lift down, chatted to the client, got them out, did a video, signed it, went up to the other mural, did another video for their socials, signed it, and it was just like pretty seamless. I kind of got back to my room and was like, can't believe I completed that in such a small amount of time. Like, you kind of don't know when you're going, how the weather's going to affect you, or this is going to affect you, or that. And I just went, nah, stuff it, man. I'm just gonna attack this, and I did. So pretty stoked. So jump into that playlist, the How to Paint a Mural playlist. Have a watch through. You'll see the whole process of me painting the videos. You'll see me learning things on the fly and working it out as I go. But I painted those murals with no one with me, all on my own, which was pretty hard. And yeah, in that time I locked in to come down here to Queenstown. I mean, look at this place. Who wouldn't want to come down here and do art for a day? Epic spot. Oh, look, the sun's hitting the hills over there now. All right. Oh, that's right. Comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz. I mean, I don't even have to ask you to do it. You'll do it anyway, won't you? So, thank you.